Good day. Today we're going to cover a very hot topic, very much in the news and all over YouTube. And I'm trying to, launch my crime channel, so we'll cover this one too, or not in big detail. I'm not going to do the politics, leaving the politics completely out. I'm just going to go and give you an overview of this scumbag. Now, I would like to use other words for him. I will not use his name. But I can't use those words on YouTube. Well, I can, but I get in trouble. Um, the files being released, all the emails, I think, are completely overhyped. I think most of the real information that might have been what we wanted is taken out and gone, not released, and it won't be. What we get left is a whole lot of redacted stuff, which is missing half the conversations. We only get part of them here or there. But with all the redactions, we're left guessing what's in the blanks, and we can guess accurately or we can guess poorly, but doesn't matter. It's, there's almost nothing in there to prosecute. You can't prosecute on a hunch. You can't prosecute on what it looks like, but if it's not really saying it, he's, hinting all around it, but doesn't actually say who, when, where, why, and there's nothing can be done. Now, yes, they when you're doing things like this, you do want a fall guy, a stooge, someone who'll catch the bullet, and everyone can say, "See, we got somebody." And that happened to turn out to be an English prince, um, brother of the king. But he's also getting nailed for some financial no-nos too. But probably the pictures that were released of him helped a lot, if not the actual real reason why he got rid of him. But anyhow, we can't do anything with speculation. Plus, he used code words, and we don't know what the code words were. So we can only guess what it was, and maybe we guessed correctly. Maybe we guessed very accurately. But if we're guessing, we still can't bring that into court. We can't bring a guess in because we don't have ABC. We have AC, and he's missing intentionally. Again, with him using code, who knows? His bad grammar. Maybe he used that as part of code, or maybe he just had bad grammar. Um, Also, some of the emails were, let's say, honeypots. There were emails. Yeah, honeypot might not be the right word. Anyhow, there were emails he wrote, knowing full well they were going to be read by somebody else. These were likely, torpedoes in case he was going to be arrested, and someone else reading these, and he can make accusations all you want, and it never got sent anywhere other than to himself. Or maybe he could have used that for a blackmail compromise, and just had to whop out the two, put in the two, and hit send, and away it goes. Already prepared, preloaded bullets. But they were clearly written. If you look at the style of his other writings in the emails, they're very ecliptic. Eclectic. But the ones he wrote that I think are distractions. I think they're designed to send you in other directions. They read differently, and that's what makes me think that he wrote them with the intent of someone else reading them. How he got into big money, I don't know. He falsified his college degree, but apparently he was good in math. and I managed to get a job teaching math in a school. I forgot to look up what level of school he was mapping. I probably have a funny feeling it was probably grade school or high school, not college level. I I forgot to look it up. I don't know, but knowing this F-tard, it was probably the lesser. I think he. I will use the word buffaloed. Okay, I think he buffaloed a lot of people and a lot of really important people. I think he was able to probably do his, mathematic scribbles on a napkin in a meeting, and whoever the person was he was trying to impress, probably was impressed because they probably didn't know the mathematics. So he's putting numbers in and pulling numbers out, and it all looks good. And the guy he's trying to convince to give him money or invest in whatever in one of his many false or real projects, they probably believed it. Saw his numbers, which were probably again all falsified and fake, but he can make it look good because he knows how to math. His maths probably weren't mapping, but no one would know. I think a lot of these big guys were out of touch on accounting, shall we say? So his skills in front of them, they go ooh, and bring him on board. Whatever his relationship was with the billionaire who got his fame and money through the lingerie line, and it had a couple other companies, but lingerie I think was the biggest one that made money for him, billions. Um, One thing the billionaire did was sell scumbag here. I believe it's a 5-story house in very prime territory in New York, and sold it to him for like $1 or $10. Yeah, how nice. um, that would give him something he could go to the bank on, and the house is worth millions or some millions. That would give him some credit, something he can put up against to get money. So that probably helped too. Back what he wanted to do with the house. Um, then when he got into handling the finances of Mr. Billionaire, he was rounding, shall we say? Oh, a couple 100,000 here, kind of disappeared. Maybe a million over here disappeared. Uh, rounding error, scribbler's error, and of course, the billionaire. What's $100,000 to a billionaire? That's like a couple of bucks to a millionaire. What's a million missing from a billionaire? Well, that's like a couple hundred missing to a billionaire. So that got him a lot of money. I'm quite sure. I think how he socially climbed into these areas, I mean, no idea. But I think all along and all the way through, he was the dirty sleazebag that he was, and was probably recording and taping everything, and probably got his way up through some level of extortion, blackmail, uh, potential compromising. So, that probably got him up a little further in the world with some people. Or, hey, I can blackmail you, or he can go to their opponents and say, hey, look what I got on him. Bring me in. Um, Once he's into the big crime, organized crime runs like a business. like a professional business. I mean, like a Fortune 500 business. They have accounting, but instead of keeping track of widgets, they keep track of crimes, crimes and extortions, and what bad they've done today, and how much it made them. So once he got up into that level, there was even more money going on. Now, he wasn't one of the big bosses in this accounting and organized crime crap. Careful, Scott. Um, he was, and I will use the term intentionally, an asset. And I'll use it again later for something else, but I'll meet it something. Anyhow. I think him being a asset, a fixer, an accommodator, allegedly gun runner, but I don't think he ran guns. I think he probably organized the gun running. Probably had contact to who was buying and who was selling, and how we can move it around, or get it through customs or whatever. Um, that probably tremendously helped his income. And again, I also had many alleged companies, and he did have some level of intelligence. I think more of a con level of intelligence, but he did want to. He somehow got to talk to physics people, got them involved in stuff, including one guy I really like, and he's now his name is in there. Really good, but, theoretical physics guys out of Arizona, but he's now toast. Thanks. Um, yeah, maybe he did have skills, but again, I think he just buffaloed his way through it. Convinced these people he knew what he was talking about, and maybe he did. Maybe he did part of a good scam. Part of being a good scammer, you got to know something about it. Maybe he knows just enough to get people doing best. Who knows? Some of the companies were real, potentially. Some of them were absolutely fake. Uh, of course, some people are saying he cloned himself, and the person in the cell was his clone. If he cloned himself, he would have to have cloned himself at the same time he was born. So his clone would be the same age as he, so he can then throw that guy in to get killed. So I don't think that really happened. I don't think he cloned himself when he was born. Or if he did clone himself 10 years ago, the clone would be 10 years old. Kind of stand out. So that ain't flying. Now it also comes into some of his contacts. One was a lady, and the father was up in Israeli business, possibly Mossad. We'll never know. So he could have been using our friend here. Well, but, you'd think of it as being an agent, but it's really more of an asset. Using him to get information, military level intelligence on people, information, data, businesses, transactions, etc. Or who knows? Again, compromising someone big and mighty and get that to the Mossad, so they've got something big and mighty on somebody, and he makes money off of that, and probably was doing some rounding there too. He also could have been, if we're talking about stuff on this level, an asset for the CIA. I'm not the FBI. Shouldn't should be something CIA or one of the other 3-digit companies that are not organizations that don't really exist. Or, Anyhow, there too, he could have been, again, a data collector, getting information from whatever he needed, from whomever he needed, and passing it on and getting his rewards. And some of the rewards would have been uh, giving him protective status, which would allow him to do a lot of shite. And authorities would look the other way because he had a protective status, either protected by the CIA and being an asset, or maybe protected by the Mossad by being an asset, and the CIA honored them. Could be, could be, but that left the door wide open for him to do his crimes and get away with them. Did he commit suicide? No. Was he killed? Yes. Um, One, I would think he'd be killed anyhow, just because, not because he was really high up, but because he was an agent of people who were really high up, and he paid attention, and again, recorded everything, copied everything, had parties that everyone wanted to show up for on his torture island. There's a leaf blower in the background. Hopefully you can't hear it. Anyhow, the night he died, the video camera that would look right down his row and see everything. I mean, anyone coming in and out of his cell. Ugh. Malfunctioned. Unbelievable. Also, the guards, well, initially said they were asleep, but the guards didn't do their rounds, so there's that. Suddenly, for that night, they didn't do their rounds. Now, initially, they said they fell asleep. Then the story was they just didn't do their rounds and they were doing something else. And then I think there's like 3 or 4 stories of what the guards were doing, but they were doing everything but their job. Probably paid off. Although, where he was being held was quite a facility. Lots of very high people, high level criminals that were stored there. So, again, for someone to get in to do it, they would have to be connected. If he actually did move himself into another plane of existence on his own, it could be, but we don't have any photos of how they found him. And if he did dangle himself, he's a tall dude. So he'd have to have something tall. I don't mean to stand up to hang him. I mean, even if he sat down to, sit down and, slide off of something and then, still, he's a, tall dude. If he didn't do it right, he'd be like, I'm still alive. This is hurting, but I'm not dead. And we don't know. And with him being a tall guy and where he, we don't know how he hung himself if he did, which I don't think he did. I think that was, bullshit. Oops, Buffalo. I think with him being captured this time, arrested the second time, he wasn't going to get the sweet honey deal he did before. The first time he was arrested, he had 18 months sentence. What he got caught for was unbelievable, and what they actually charged him for was absolutely nothing. Gave him 18 months, to which he could leave the prison, jail, almost every day for most of the day. So he only like spent night in jail. The rest of the day he was off cavorting, doing what he wanted to do. Also, while he was in jail, everyone was a legal assistance or legal counsel and were entitled to privacy. Even the very, very young girls that would come in and say they were legal counsel. So he was probably able to do what he likes to do in jail. Anyhow, the reason he probably got the sweet deal the first time, again, that leads me back to thinking he was an asset and protected. And, maybe he was getting a little loose, so they let him be caught, but they didn't give him a big sentence so he can be back out and doing what they need him to do. I think the second time they got this words I can't use, scumbag. Um, I think they had too much on him, and he became a loose end. And we can't have loose ends hanging around. Yes, that pun was intentional. And you close up your loose ends. Make sure, everything's tied back nice and fancy. So he probably got a little too wild, got caught, and wasn't going to get out as easily. But he became a security risk for those to whom he was working for, or those to whom he had stuff on. And his sexual behavior and what he done, what he allegedly had done. He does deserve to die, and I think he got off easy. I think he should have been buried up to his neck in an anthill. But disgusting. Absolutely amoral. And then there's also, again, trying to like read between the lines and read the code words and what things could have meant is also disgusting. And there are rumors on, YouTube and everywhere about what this stuff means. And if it means some of what people were guessing, half of what people were guessing, speculating to be true, really disgusting. But yeah, it boils down to, the guy had so much money, accumulated so much money, he didn't know what to do with it. Had houses, bought an island, had his own plane, moving people around. He probably had so much money and idle hands. He had nothing to do, or, had too much time on his hands. And that allowed him to do what he wanted. He had the money to do what he wanted to do. He wanted to get, he can get it. Idle hands. And a billionaire, I think he became a billionaire or damn close to it. Idle hands. But And another question is, how many more are out there like this person, this scumbag? Never know. Also, again, talking to us connected and how we, can't have loose ends hanging around. Yes, I did that again intentionally. A lot of people associated with scumbag die, and they tend to die kind of quickly and kind of unexpectedly. Now, they don't die the Russian way, like, falling out of a window, 10 stories up. You know, like when all those Russians were suddenly falling out windows. Um, that's Russian, too blatant, too easy. But anyhow, almost like the Clintons, man. People say things and disappear, or people are going to say things, and well, they don't disappear; they end up, you know, off to another plane of existence. With his connections, if he had the connections, and even with his money, even if he didn't, even if it wasn't Mossad, or maybe if it was the CIA, just his money alone, the amount of money he had, he can get people taken care of. Some guys will do who knows what for how much, and you'd be surprised how much someone was willing to do and how little they get paid for doing it. Life these days doesn't have much of a price tag. But anyhow, glad he's dead. I think he was killed. The files, full of nothing, really, full of speculation, full of innuendo, probably full of distractions, intentional sending people down a blind alley. I think some of it also might be he just got so used to being able to get away with the stuff that he just didn't have a problem talking about it. Sometimes he forgets to use code, but again, doesn't leave us with anything we can get him on. Yeah, for the most part, or get anyone else on. Again, we don't have who, what, where, and when. So how do we prosecute that? All we have is somebody, innuendo, somebody, this action. We can't do anything with that. And I know the population is going to go, oh, look at all this, look at all this. We got to arrest all kinds of people, prosecute all kinds of people. Again, no, because it's not in there. Speculation is leaping over data or making assumptions, and you probably accurate, probably true, but we don't have it in black and white. I'm quite sure, again, some of the really juicy stuff that was in black and white is gone. Well, you will never see it. And, oh, Trump. Again, not the politics of it, it's just people up above. Probably a lot of people up above. One side or the other, whatever. Uh, Needed this loose end tied up. And reasons why we're not going to see a lot of these files. Anyhow, again, this is just one scumbag. People he dealt with are all scumbags. He dealt with a lot of people in high places, all scumbags. Don't know who they are. We can't touch who they are. And who knows what disgusting things they're doing. if they have no problem coming to Scumbag's house of pleasure. Apparently, the first two floors in that house, the one in New York, were essentially normal. I mean, bad choice and decorations, but were mostly normal. But once you get to the third floor on up, all of a sudden, all the wall paintings are, nudes and suggestion shit and, kinky crap and gross stuff. And then, of course, there's, Torture Island. So if he had, high level people, popular people, stars, athletes, politicians, royalty, well, also, in the Middle Eastern royalties too. There's some disgusting stuff there. But anyhow, if they're willing to come, oh, Godward, if they're willing to travel to these places to do the things that are supposedly have done, like I said earlier, who knows what they're doing? How many places they have? What their end of it is? We do have enough proof that this guy was trafficking women, and probably even boys and girls. But he was trafficking for sexual trade, all ages, all ages. Come back. I don't know. Okay, yeah, this is running long, and I'm glad he's gone. Settles. May your God go with you. May he go to hell. Push the button, Frank. We're done.